Welcome back, everyone. It's the Bourbon Judge. We are back at it. Actually, today's episode is one where it's actually kind of a cool story. But before I even dive into that, before I dive into today's episode, let me give you a couple updates regarding housekeeping. So I literally, and I mean literally, just got back from Kentucky. Did a barrel pick. Did a barrel pick actually with Russell's Reserve, Wild Turkey. So myself and Stuff and Whiskey, we collaborate all the time. My good friends Josh and Aaron. So we actually did 2 barrels of Russell's Reserve single barrel. So really excited. Those barrels were, oh my gosh, that was an experience. Not to mention, first and foremost, it was like 150 degrees out, literally. I think on Saturday or Thursday rather, when we did the barrel pick, it was 100 degrees. With humidity, it felt like in the brick house, like literally like 115. I mean, it was steamy. But either way, hey, we enjoyed some great whiskey and picked 2 barrels for our Patron community. So we're really excited about that. So we have Russell's will be coming up, obviously soon in the next couple of months, once we get it in house and so forth. So that's Russell's. Definitely enjoyed Kentucky, hanging out there. While I was in Kentucky, myself and my patrons, after we left our Wild Turkey, after the barrel pick, we drove over to Glenn's Creek Distillery. We were hanging out with Dave, the owner, and his team had a blast, sipping some Glenn's Creek Distillery whiskey as well, some OCD5, and really just honestly enjoyed ourselves. So we were there. We had a chance to kind of check in on our barrel. We did a barrel pick with Glenn's Creek, and that one will be available. We're actually in the process right now of working with Dave to get it bottled, get it out to share pour, and hopefully they'll be available in the next couple weeks. So really excited about that one. But we did check in on our barrel, and let's just say the whiskey is aging quite fine. All right, definitely check out Glenn's Creek as well as Wild Turkey if you guys are on the Bourbon Trail. 2 great distilleries and both worth checking out for sure. And then last but not least, from a housekeeping perspective, in terms of like barrel picks, tonight, actually literally later tonight at 7 o'clock Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern, today's Sunday, we are releasing our JT Mellick barrel pick. Woohoo! Coming in at 124.7 proof. That barrel and that bottle, oh my gosh. You want to talk about good? Our community, we picked some good barrels. So really excited our Patron community has access to some really good barrels. All right. So I'm in Kentucky and I was driving down. I went to Ohio to visit after the barrel picks, visit my family, cousin Anita and so forth. And I'm hanging out in Party Source. I'm looking at all the different, bottles. I just was hanging out actually with one of my patrons, my good buddy Troy. We connected for a few minutes. And so I went to shop and so forth. And I'm looking at all these different brands. And there were 5 brands that were on the shelf at Party Source that when I looked at them, I'm like, why do I never buy these bottles? Like some of them I've had before, some of the brands, some of the bottles, others I have not, but I've had them at like a bar or a friend's house at like a bourbon tasting, but they're just not ones that I gravitate towards. So I want to be crystal clear. I'm not saying that these brands are bad, right? I want to be crystal clear when I say that. I'm not saying the brands are bad. I'm not saying the whiskey is bad. I just don't gravitate toward them. I've owned the bottles in the past, maybe 1, maybe 2, but no more than that. Others, I've had samples, like I said, at a bar, but whenever I'm at like a liquor store, i.e. when I was at Party Source, I see them, I want to love them. I mean, I want to love them big time. I want to go ahead and grab a bottle and add it to my collection. But for some odd reason, I don't. And I don't know what it is. But then I kind of sat back and I was like, you know what, Judge? You know why you don't love these bottles and these brands. So I'm going to keep real and kind of go through these. But again, these are just 5 for me. I'm not saying anything bad about the brands or the whiskey. I'm just saying that I can't buy a bottle of them for whatever reason. Cool? All right. So let me give you 5. These are not in order. Not in order. All right. So number 1. What is number 1, Judge, and why? Number 1 for me has to be, again, these are not in order, but Wilderness Trail. When I think about Wilderness Trail, I love the story behind it, right? I think one of the owners, one of the guys who started up, he was like a scientist or had like a science background, really big into science and all that kind of good stuff, and ended up creating his own distillery. Hey, kudos to him. Did very well. I think recently, I believe they actually just sold off, which I don't blame them, by the way, earned some cash. But when I think about Wilderness Trail, the whiskey's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good. But I never tend to reach toward their bourbons or their ryes or honestly any of their offerings. I've had bottles in the past and like one or two, and they're okay, but I never find their whiskey to be like really exciting, right? I want something that's exciting when I'm buying a bottle. And unfortunately, when it comes to Wilderness Trail, there's nothing exciting about it for me personally, right? Again, not bad whiskey. If I'm in a random town and that's the only bottle on the shelf, yeah, sure, I'm gonna buy it because it's decent, but it's not one that I want to grab and take home and say, hey, have you guys tried this brand new Glen's Creek or this Wild Turkey, whatever it is, or Russell's or whatever it might be, bottle. It's not one of those type of bottles to me, or even like a JT Mellick where I'm like, this is such great whiskey. It's just decent whiskey. So for me personally, number one is Wilderness Trail. All right, that's number one. I need a sip of whiskey after all that. Cheers. Woo! Gosh, that's good. Oh my. All right. Number two on the list. So this next brand, again, nothing wrong with the quality of the whiskey. Nothing wrong with the price point. The price point is cool. Normally like, 50, 60, 70 bucks. So the price is cool. The whiskey's decent. The bottle design is actually pretty cool too. There's not a ton of bottles on the market exactly like this. Some reason I never gravitate toward Jebediah Creek, right? So Jebediah Creek, they make really good whiskey. But for me personally, I don't know. I see their bottles, see it on the shelf. I'm like, I should grab it. And guess what? I don't grab it. I just don't end up grabbing their bottles. I don't know why. It's just their whiskey itself. I find it just okay. I never find anything special about it or memorable. And that's probably the reason why, even though it's at a decent price point, I just don't have it in my collection. It's never been a memorable experience. That's just me. That's number two. All right, what is number three, Judge? Oh boy. So number three is one of those celebrity bourbons. Celebrity, really technically a brand, right? So one of those celebrity brands. They have various different releases. Actually pretty cool. Again, cool bottle design. The whiskey is actually decent. I've had one or two of their single barrels that I thought was pretty decent. But never like memorable. So number three for me is Heaven's Door. Heaven's Door, obviously, as we know, source whiskey, the whole Bob Dylan celebrity, that whole kind of concept, if you will. The whiskey is actually pretty decent. It really is. It's decent. After the one or two bottles I've owned, though, every time I see Heaven's Door, Ascension, all the different releases that are out there, do I grab it? No, I don't. I just I want to grab it. The bottle looks cool, but I'm like, why are you grabbing that? The whiskey's not great, so I don't end up grabbing it. I don't know. That's number three, Heaven's Door. I'm gonna save number five is gonna be a fun one. That's a fun one. That's the one. That's the bottle that I actually really do want, and I'm literally trying to convince myself to buy it, but I can't do it for whatever reason. Number four. All right, number four is, again, a lot of these cool stories. All of their whiskey, I think for the most part, not all, but maybe most of their whiskey, I should say, has the whole port wine finish. We all know what we're talking about now. Angel's Envy. Cool story, started by a family, cool bottle design, located right downtown Louisville. Their whiskey is good, right? Their bourbon is good. Their rye is pretty decent. But every time, you see their single barrels all over, but every time I see Angel's Envy, no matter if it's like their standard product or even like one of their single barrels that I see like they're all over, at least on the East Coast, they're single barrels. I just never gravitate toward Angel's Envy. Again, good whiskey, cool bottle design, cool, kind of concept, if you will. But do I gravitate toward Angel's Envy? I just don't. I don't. I see it and I'm like, I kind of want to grab it, but I kind of don't. And guess what? I don't. That's just Angel's Envy. I'm sorry. It's number four. Maybe eventually I'll fall in love with one of their special releases, maybe. But for now, just not my cup of tea. All right, before I get to number five, and by the way, there is no, wow, look at that. There is no asterisk today. No asterisk at all today. Just five. Before I get to number 5, real quick, 3 quick easy favors. Number 1, hit the like button. Number 2, drop me a comment. Let me know, what are your thoughts? What are some bottles or brands that you just don't gravitate toward? You kind of want to like them, but you're like, you know what? I'm not going to buy it. And then last but not least, please make sure you also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notification each and every time I release new content. Cool? All right. Number 5. Oh boy, this brand, of all of these, this is the one brand that I mean, literally, when I was inside Party Source, I'm selling myself, right? I am selling myself like, Judge, buy this bottle. I mean, I'm selling myself. No one else there. I'm selling myself. You should buy this bottle. Really cool stickers. It's from out west. I mean, I'm selling myself on it. Cheers. I need another sip of whiskey. So number 5. Again, great. The whiskey is actually pretty good. I've had it on a couple occasions. Never owned a bottle, but I've had some of their whiskey before, and I actually enjoy their whiskey. None of it though was, for me, again, it was never memorable or just like so good I was like really excited to share it with a friend, and that's part of the reason why I never bought it. When I think about number 5, this comes from out in Colorado, 291 whiskey. Cool whiskey, cool bottle design. They always have all their stickers of all the awards they've won. But honestly, when you think about their whiskey, whew, Colorado whiskey 291 is expensive. It's a grip. I mean, literally, seriously, their small batch was like 80 or 90 bucks for their small batch. It's expensive. Is it good? Sure. Not saying anything bad. Not saying anything bad. But I mean, their whiskey is expensive. If you want one of their single barrels, oh man, you're in the mid 100s at this point. With tax, you're like 130, 140, depending on the shop that you get it from. It is extremely expensive. Hence the reason why I was at Party Source. I was like, Judge, buy a bottle. And I reached for it, and then I was like, nah, not today. And I didn't buy one. I mean, it's just a lot of money for a single barrel for $1.40 or $1.50, whatever it is, with tax and so forth. So I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I held off. So all 5 of these, I don't have them in my collection. They're not in the courtroom today. And honestly, I don't know if they ever will be. Never say never. Hey friends, until the next time, peace, cheers, and as we say, most important, salute. Take care.